motivated. We all need a little motivation. Money keeping her motivated. We all need a little motivation. Money keeping me motivated. We all need a little motivation. Money keeping her motivated. We all need a little motivation. Keep all the real niggas motivated. Keep all them little niggas motivated. Maybach 600, it drove her crazy. Sure they gon' do it, she motivated. I've been neglecting the rover.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Smooth Podcast. Simply motivating others onward through hope. And that statement, that acronym is going to hold very true with this next conversation. To the left of me, I have my friend Jonathan, also known as JTex. What's going on?
What's going on, man?
The reason why I asked JTex to join me today was I wanted to kind of entitle this conversation, this podcast, as perseverance. And one of the people that illustrates and exhibits the personality, the work environment, every tangible thing that has to do with perseverance, this guy to the left of me has. And, a lot of people might see him out just, on some, hey, what's up? But, his story is pretty deep. What he's doing in the real estate realm is quite frankly amazing. And I'm hoping that he's able to shed light on both of those aspects here today. So just to start things off, JTex, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Well, originally I lived in CF until I was like 4, but throughout the rest of basically my whole life, I lived in the same house for 29 years. Yeah, and in Pawtucket. So yeah, I've been in Pawtucket most of my life, and now I live in New Bedford. I have a house out there. So
Gotcha. And now, while in high school, how would you say you were as a student?
I was a good student. I was top 10% in my class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did well in school, so I was always on it.
And then, what was your kind of dreams, aspirations at that point? What did you want to become?
Well, with me, what I wanted to become, I honestly I wanted to do law enforcement and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like as a kid, it's always a firefighter or a police officer, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But as I got older, I always knew that my passion was real estate. Mm. I always knew, just cause. And my dad, when he was around, that's what he did. He did carpentry work and stuff like that. Mm. And so yeah, I just knew real estate was it for me. I knew at a young age.
And so, did you go to college?
I went to college. I went to CCRI for a little bit, but school was never for me, anything past high school. I already knew that whatever I was going to get as a degree wasn't going to be what I was going to do in my life. Mm-hmm. So I just stopped. I just dropped out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And now, you're at CCRI, you're thinking about dropping out. Are you nervous about what your future holds and what you're gonna end up doing, or what's your mindset during that time?
Nah, to me it was more nervous as me going to school for 4 years, and then what am I gonna do after that? Am I gonna doing this job that I'm going to school for? At that point I was already making good money for my age, so the money wasn't really an aspect of my decision or anything like that. So I wasn't really nervous. It was more just I knew that school wasn't for me. Continued education was not for me. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And now, so what was your plan at that time?
At that time, honestly, I didn't really have a set plan. It was just I was working at Expressions. I was a store manager there. I was 19 years old. I was making good money, you know what I mean? So I wasn't really worried about that. So I didn't have any goals. And then it wasn't until I joined the military is when I really just started making goals and hitting my goals and just building from there.
And now, what was the decision to join the military? Because usually, from the outside looking in, joining the military is one, you have an actual burning desire to help your country, or the second is your world is kind of disarray and you're looking for something to kind of be a part of, something to be proud of yourself in. What kind of lanes did you take to end up in the military?
So with me, I just felt like I was at a dead end road. I was at a job that was a standstill. There was really no room to grow or anything like that. So I just wanted to do something different. And at first it was supposed to go to the Army, and I did the ASVAB, the physical and all that, and I was supposed to go through with that. And then I spoke to another recruiter, like literally last minute, and I switched to the Air Force. But I was gonna be infantry in the Army, which would basically be frontline. And it was during a bad time, so everything worked out good for me because I had some friends that were in the Air Force, and it was like, oh, just come to the Air Force. There was a bigger bonus. Like the Army was trying to give me $2,500 to sign up. You know what I mean? And then I went to the Air Force. They gave me 15,000 signing bonus, and I enlisted for 6 years, and I'm still in right now, 12 years in.
And what are some of the greatest lessons or skills that you've learned during your time there?
In the military, routine, having a schedule, because I'm a very routine based person. If I don't have routine, I don't have a schedule for my day. Like my day's in shambles. You know what I mean? And then it gets worse and worse as you keep going, and like you don't have a set routine for your next day, or you don't know what you're gonna do. And I've been times like that I haven't had. I just wake up and I'm just like, what am I gonna do today? I don't have anything to do, so that's when I start going down a bad path.
Right. Yeah, there's an old saying, idle time is a devil's playground. And I think that holds true in most cases. Most of the time that we do things that we're not proud of, or, exhibit certain behaviors that we're not fond of, it's during a time where we're just either bored or don't have anything scheduled for that time.
Yeah, exactly.
So now the real estate side, before we get to the real estate side, before you touched on your father being in real estate, you said when he was here, what happened to your father, and going as deep as you want or as not as deep as you want?
So my father, he wasn't he was in real estate to the point where he was a carpenter, so he didn't like own any property or anything like that. My father, he passed away when I was younger. He passed away a day before my 3rd birthday. So yeah, that was so I basically grew up without a dad. My uncle was the one that was really like my dad. He's the one that taught me about credit. He told me about like houses, and he had a house at the time, so I was the one I was taking care of my mom's house at the time. So he was the one that really led me into the right path. He was a big part of my life.
And now losing your father at 3, like, how was that?
It was tough. I mean, my mom, I watched her do everything on her own, you know what I mean? So she was raising, it was 2 kids. It was me and my sister. And then she actually brought my brother, my dad's son, from Cape Verde. So he lived in Cape Verde with his mom. She just had like a big heart, you know what I mean? She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to bring him to the country, but she did it out of the kindness of her heart. She brought him here. She put him through school. So she was raising 3 kids on her own.
Wow.
And then she had my younger sister when she had gotten with my younger sister's dad, and they were engaged at one point. They were supposed to get married.
And so, do you kind of value the relationship that you have with your twins now? Because I see you being an awesome father to them. Does it hit a little different with you being on like the opposite end now with like fatherhood?
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. That was my biggest motivation. Like I've been doing real estate for a long time. Like if I was doing what I was doing now back then it would be like a game changer right now. It would be so different. But I started off kind of later. My kids were really my motivation to really like to hit the floor running. Like there was no turning back. Like I knew that this is what I needed to do to set them up in the right path.
And now, a lot of people, they fling the real estate term out there. It's kind of like a catchphrase now, like entrepreneur and stuff like that. But you actually do separate things in real estate. Like you're not just a flipper. You have multifamilies as well. So try to break down the first process on your first real estate exchange and what you had to sacrifice to accomplish that.
So the first house that I ever like had was inherited from my mom when she had passed away. So my mom, she passed away when I was 10 years old. She passed away in a car accident. Her and my grandmother, well, it was me, my grandmother, my mom, and my cousin. We was going to pick up my grandmother from Cape Verde. She had just come from Cape Verde So she was just staying in Brockton, and she was supposed to stay with us in Pawtucket. So I went to go pick her up, and then my cousin wanted to sleep over my house. So he came for the ride, and then on the way back, we got into like a really bad accident, and she passed away instantly. I was in the back seat with my cousin. My grandma passed away, and I had to get flown to Boston Medical Center. And this was me at 10 years old. I had to have open brain surgery. I had to learn how to walk again. Broke my arm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
And I'm so sorry to hear that, but this story is just so incredible to me. And a lot of people, they don't end up where you're currently at having a history like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it works both ways, where it's like you can have things like that in your life happen and you let it deter you from going to your goals, or you can have stuff like that happen and it motivates you to go to your goals. So you're kind of in control of your mother's house, so you're getting a full-on real estate lesson right there, right? With everything going on, and it all falls on you. So what happens from then?
So obviously at 10 years old, you can't manage a house.
Right.
So my grandmother, she had to move in with me and my sister and my brother. So she raised us in that house. It wasn't until I was like 17 where I really had to, cause my grandma, she was getting old. She couldn't do it on her own. So I was like 17 years old, and I was like hiring contractors to redo bathrooms and kitchens and going to Home Depot and buying supplies for the house. You know what I mean? So it was like I had no choice. So I was like put into this position.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like, and I had my sister too, but my sister wasn't really into.
Now, was there like a scale, or was there a family member that you could talk to about, how much should I be spending on this and what's the right way to do about this? Or like what was kind of like the reference point?
Yeah, my uncle, he's my godfather as well. Like I said, he's the one that was basically my father figure growing up. So he's like a jack of all trades. He could do anything when it comes to plumbing, electrical, tiling, anything, you name it, and he knows how to do it. So I went to him for basically everything. Like for all my advice, he told me what to buy. He told me the materials. He was like how much I should be spending and not. So he was a big help.
And now, so that same house was the house that you lived in for 20 plus years, correct?
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I guess that's another, thing about real estate is like, if mom didn't own that house, like you might have been like on the street or something like that, right? Like it could have been,
yeah, it could have been
like 1,000 times worse, which is another reason why real estate is such a key thing, is because it's legit. People talk about, wealth, right? But how about just a place to live? Like, of course, like you want to give like your kids and stuff all this money, all this wealth, but at the end of the day, like they need to be having their needs met first. Like a lot of people forget about that. Like, how about just having a place to live that like they can inherit? That in its own right is a blessing.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with that. And a lot of people that just don't have that motivation to even own property. They'll have the money, they'll have the credit. Like I see a lot of people now, they're like, oh, my credit score is 780, my credit score is 800. That's just a number on a paper at the end of the day if you're not using it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, all right, that's cool. What are you doing with it?
What are you doing with it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, okay, from your mom's property, what's the next, I guess, real estate advancement that you made, and like, how did you get to do it?
So prior to me selling my mom's house, I had bought other houses before that. So when I had came back from boot camp in the military, I had bought a house. I bought a 3-family. This is when the market was still very low and you could get 3 families for $135.
And so even then though, explain like the process. Like what was the step-by-step on how you acquired this 3-family?
Which one?
The second one after your mother's.
So when I came back from boot camp, I have saved up money. So I just did a FHA, first time home buyer, and I just went from there.
So, I hope my listeners understand that like a lot of the people I bring in when they're dealing with real estate all go through FHA 3.5 down. It's like a no-brainer. as long as you meet the requirements, it's the way to go. And especially, getting a multifamily. But continue.
Yeah, so I did that. I bought that house. I had that house for like 6 years, and then one of my friends, when I was deployed, he ended up passing away in that house. So when I came back, I already had like a gray cloud over the house. So I'm just like, I just needed to sell it. So I ended up selling it, and when I sold it, that's when I really started with the flipping. So I used that money that I had gotten from that, and I invested it into flipping houses.
And about what time is this? What time period?
That this happened.
Mm-hmm.
This is in 2017.
Okay,
Is when I sold the house.
Okay, so that was like your first taste of flipping.
Yeah.
When did you realize that this was an actual business that you wanted to be in part in, though? Because it sounds like that first one was kind of like, I just want this like out of my like way type of thing. When did you realize like, oh, I can like keep on doing this?
Well, all right. So I've always wanted to do flips. Like even like when I was telling you I was 17, 18, I used to call the We Buy Ugly Houses.
Yeah.
I used to call that at like 17, 18 years old, trying to sell my mom's house.
Wow.
To see, it's crazy. I used to go on Zillow to see how much houses were going for. And so I called them one time, and it was like, how old are you, kid? Like,
I was about to say the average, me at 17, 18, I'm looking at like Jordan release dates and like, seeing how much they cost, and you're talking real estate. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was literally trying to sell them my mom and dad's house, but I didn't really know nothing about them. Now I know that they're wholesalers, so it's like they buy it at a wholesale price and then they sell it to somebody else.
Right.
The middleman, whatever. So thank God I did not go that route, but but yeah, I've always wanted. Like I used to go on Zillow and be like, look at houses that needed updates. Like, oh, this house needs a new kitchen. This house needs a new bathroom. If I put in 15,000, I could sell this house for another 50,000 more. You know what I mean? Because I knew what the prices were to fix like these things. Because I was doing this in my mom's house, and obviously I didn't know the real numbers. Like there's a closing cost, there's attorney fees, there's holding costs, and all that stuff. So I'm just thinking of just basic numbers. Like, oh, I buy it for 100, I put 40, I sell it for 160. You know what I mean? Or 180, 200. I'm gonna make that profit. In reality, that's not how it really works. But I've always, like I said, it's always. I feel like it's been instilled in me. Like this real estate. Now it's just a flipping. I really started doing it. 2018 is when my LLC started. And I just started going from there. But I mean, it hasn't always been unicorns and rainbows and glitter. You know what I'm saying? It was my first flip was tough. I lost a lot of money on my first one.
Where was it? How many units?
So my first one was it was in the East Side. It was I bought it for $360. Yeah, I bought it for $360 where I really should have paid like $250, $200.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I hired a contractor that was a friend of mine. Well, we ain't friends anymore. I ended up having to fire him. It was like ended up had to hire a whole new contractor. I went over budget like $80,000. Ended up losing $84,000.
Wow.
And yeah, it was tough. I went through a very depressing moment in my life.
So that was like your first flip after like making your company a real thing?
Yeah.
And so, did that deter you, or what did that do to you?
I just looked at it as like, there's no way in hell that I'm losing 84 grand. Like, there's no way. I made that money back in 6 months.
Wow.
I made that money back in 6 months. I ended up, after I closed on that house, I ended up wholesaling a house and made almost 40 grand off a wholesale. So I got basically half my money back. And I was already flipping another house in EP. It was a single family. And so I got some money on that. And then I had a 2-family in Pawtucket that, like, a percentage of that is what really made me break even. And then with that money that I used, I did a 1031 exchange, and I ended up buying my 6-unit.
And what's a 1031 exchange?
So a 1031 exchange is like, so you don't pay capital gains on your profits. So you use your profits to put into another property. So I ended up making like 135,000 on that house, and then
Wow.
I put 115,000 of that down on my on a 6-unit that I own.
And you currently own it today?
I still own it. That's my cash cow.
6 unit, man. That's a lot.
And I bought it at a great time. Like right now, I bought it for $450, which right now you're not getting a 6 unit for $450.
Not at all.
And this was I think 2019 that I bought it. But yeah, you're not getting that right now. I could easily sell it for like $800.
Right.
But I'm not. That's gonna be passed down to my kids. I'm never selling the house.
Yeah, I learned a term. I don't know how true it is, but you know, it sounded good to my ears. It said, you know, rich people in real estate sell, wealthy people hold. So it's like you're not gonna get that big bag off the top, but the residual income and paying down the mortgage, and now you have all the equity to, you know, reinvest into something else. It's just a longer game, but you end up being wealthy at the end of it. You know.
Yeah.
Well, would you agree with that, or what would you say?
Absolutely, I definitely agree, because it's like you can only do so, like you can flip a house here and there and you can make money off it, but it's not like something that you're getting money every month. You know what I mean? Like if you have a 6 unit or your 4 unit, 3 unit, whatever the case may be, not only that you're probably going to be living for free. Like right now, the rents are like average rent in the United States is $2,000 a month. You know what I mean? That's pretty high, especially if you're not making that much money.
Very high.
Like I know people right now that don't make that much money and they're paying like $1,800, and that's literally living check by check just to be able to live in a house, to have a roof over their head. It's like I would never want to be in that situation. So why not just own? You know? Buy a 3 unit. You live on one floor. The other 2 are paying your mortgage. Plus you're making extra money. You just save that $1,800, $2,000 that you would have been paying somebody else, and then you can use that money to invest into more properties.
And you know, for your other investments, what I've noticed is you don't just work with one person. Like you'll tap into kind of different resources. How big is networking to you and to what you've done thus far?
Networking is huge. Your network is your net worth, you know? So it's just like if you're not networking, you're going to be you're going to be stagnant in one spot. Like if I didn't network, then I would always be stuck with it. Like when I first started flipping, I was at 12%, 2 points on my lender. If I didn't network and meet new lenders, then I wouldn't be at where I'm at right now, which is a lot less than that. So I'm tapping in on more profits.
Right.
Because I'm not paying the lender as much.
As much of a percent,
Yeah. Or I'm not paying points.
And now, are there certain circles that you feel like are elite in this real estate / flipping industry where like you're trying to like hit them up for like knowledge and they're like you're outside the circle, we ain't really gonna mess with you like that?
I feel like when I first started, it was like that.
Yeah.
But now a lot of those people that wasn't really messing with me then are messing with me now because they see that I have, you know what I mean? Like I've been in the game, so they see like my before and afters. They see my projects that I got going on. So now they want to tap in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I had to start my own table.
Yeah.
I couldn't get into anyone else's table. I had to build my own.
And I kind of respect that too, because it's kind of like a rite of passage. Because I'm sure like, you know, heavy hitters in the game get hit up on a daily basis about stuff, and like people probably like, you know, 80% of them probably aren't really that serious or that engulfed in it. You know what I mean? So to kind of weed people out, it's like, all right, like he's hitting me up now. Let me see 2 years from now where he's at by himself, and then I'll like, you know. Yeah,
I get where they're coming from with that, but even with me, like people hit me up on a DM all the time asking me like, "Oh, how did you start?" And I like that honestly, when I was getting ignored or people wasn't really trying to mess with me, that upset me to the point where I was just like, I would never do that to anybody. So I still tell people like till to this day, people hit me up, and I there's not one time that I haven't responded back to somebody.
Right. That's what's up, man.
Yeah, they ask me for advice, and I tell them, you know what I mean? Like, how did you start? Or give me advice on how to start. Like, even with, like, building personal business credit, opening up credit lines, like, stuff like that, you know? Because not everyone has the money to start.
Right.
But there's other ways to go around it. You don't have to have money. You can use other people's money.
Right. So, JTex is definitely one of the pivotal people in my life in terms of who I can talk to. If you had to tell the viewership how many phone calls and text messages I hit you up on when it comes to real estate, could you even put a number on it?
Nah.
A lot. I'm definitely appreciative of every time he picks up the phone. what happened that day? It was I had a flood in one of my houses.
Oh yeah, and he was
the middle of the night. Had a
man,
full on flood and was freaking out because I didn't know anyone to talk to. But Tex picked up the phone and he was able to, hit me on to one of his resources. But yeah, Ryder, you can explain it. That was a funny day, man. I can laugh about it now. Then I wasn't laughing at all, but I can laugh about it now.
Oh man, that's funny. You hit me up at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yo, why is Rael calling me right now? So I picked up because I'm thinking it's an emergency because you never hit me up that late. Well, it was an emergency.
Yeah.
Then you're like, yo, the what? He was like, my basement's flooded. I think one of the pipes burst, blah, blah. He was like, I don't know what to do. How do I stop this? I was like, calm down. I was like, you got to find the main to shut off the water. He was like, where is it? I don't know where it is. I was like, look along the walls in the basement and it'll be somewhere. And I told you to go look for the water meter and then it should be next to the water meter because that's going to stop the water from coming into the house.
Yeah.
So eventually you ended up finding it and then I ended up leading you to a plumber that could do an emergency and then go out there and then repair. But yeah, that's definitely funny that you brought that up.
We're going to give you a hand clap for that. So all in all, how many flips have you done?
I've done, right now, I'm at like 26, 27. Yeah.
And what was it was probably the 80,000, but what was your biggest hit and what was your biggest success?
That was my biggest hit, was the 84K. When that was my first one, and that was the most expensive lesson that I've ever...
Thankfully, it was a blessing in disguise for real, because you got it out the way. Like
I got out the way, and it really motivated me to be like, not to quit, and just to keep going. You know what I mean? And I've always been that type of person anyways. Like, I never let things hold me down too much. Like, obviously, I'm human, so I was sad. I was depressed. Like, I lost 84K, and not only was it my money, my cousin Kevin, he was an investor in that too, so half of that money was his. So I'm like, nah, I definitely got to get it back to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got him everything back. Like I said, I made the money back. But then even going forward, that even made me like, all right, I need to stop buying some more multis because I can't depend on just the flips. Because what if that happened again? You know what I mean?
Right.
Which it never did, and I'll never put myself in that situation. I was going through a realtor, and she was just telling me how, if you put this work in, you can sell it for this much. The house ended up selling for like 130 less than what she was telling me that it was supposed to sell for. So you can factor in a lot of different things on how messed up that situation was. So, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
I'm still here.
And what would you deem as like your biggest success in terms of just like a flip that you did?
The biggest flip that I did was my 2-unit, the one that I had in Pawtucket. It was a fire damage house.
So you bought it and it was fire damage all over it, and then you had to like really like get in there and redo everything pretty much.
Yeah, redo everything. And that didn't take me too long to finish because it's like I already did all my mistakes in the first one. There's no way I was doing that over again. So yeah, that was probably my biggest come up on that one.
Word. So 26. And how many multis have you owned / currently own?
Altogether, I've owned 6 multis. Right now, I have 3 multi-units, so 13 doors. And just trying to keep building from there. My goal is 100. So
100 doors.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have like an actual age or year that you want to accomplish that by, or just in general, that's what it is?
I'm gonna give myself 8 to 10 years to do that. So 10
doors a year, 10 doors per year.
Yeah.
And now your best way of funding it, like what do you see yourself funding these doors? Like, is it your flips? Is it strictly off your 9 to 5? Is it getting equity from previous multis? Like, what in your head right now, what's the way that you're going to fund all these things?
So what I basically, my goal and my plan to fund my multis is every 3 flips to invest that money towards a multi. So do a 1031 exchange every 3 flips. And that's how I plan on moving forward. But there's also other ways that you can do it, where you can get a HELOC and then you can use that money to put towards a different property, which that's another way you could do it as well. But my goal specifically is just every 3 flips, just do 1031 exchange, put that into another investment property.
And now the golden question, what do you think is going to happen in these next couple of years, so 2023, 2024, in terms of not only home prices in Rhode Island, but the interest rate? What do you think is going to happen to both of those?
I think it's gonna get better. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. Honestly, the interest rates ain't moving. They're still going up. Like someone I'm closing on a house on Friday. It's a 3-family, and I just got their commitment letter today, and I was looking at what their interest rate was. It's 7.75. That's what I said. 7.75. That's crazy, but it's not really crazy though. We look at it as crazy because we've been so spoiled.
Yes, I was gonna say that. Yes,
we historic lows under 3%. Like we might never see that again.
Right.
In our lifetime. When my mom bought her house, she was paying 9%. That's how much it was.
And that was just the average.
That's what I'm saying. That was just the average of what people were paying. And now it's at 7%, and people are like going crazy, like, oh my God, I'm not buying a house. But if you're buying multi, it doesn't really matter what their percentage rate is anyways, because you're still making money off that house.
Right. As long as it's a good deal, what I tell people, as long as it's a good deal and you have like income coming in, or at the very least you can pay off your living expenses, then it'll be a good deal. Why? Because if things go up, then it's like, oh, it's a good thing you got it when you did. If things go down, you can always reevaluate the situation and, take out another loan. And, I as long as it's now the single family game, that's a whole different game in general.
Yeah.
That is a whole different, like, if you were to buy a single family, like say if you were looking now, right? Would you wait? Like what would you do if you were put in a position where you had to purchase a single family?
I would definitely buy something that needs a lot of work so I can get it for cheap and then just fix it to where I would
That's smart though. That's smart.
To do.
Yeah.
But there's, even for people that are not flipping houses, even FHA has programs like that where you do the 2 or 3K loan. You can find a house that needs work, and then you put the work in, and the bank will reimburse you the money. So there's where you're still getting like a cheaper mortgage. As long as you're staying under 2,000, you're still under whatever the average rate is for the nation, anyways. But usually when you're buying a house for like 300,000, or even if you're at 250, your mortgage is still going to be cheaper than what you're paying for rent.
Right.
Even at a 7%.
Right.
And it's not going to be like that forever, where it's just like you might have to deal with it for like 5 years, and then once the interest rate goes down, you could just refinance.
JTex, how do you measure success?
I measure success with freedom, time freedom to move how you want, when you want. You know what I mean? Wake up when you want. Like that's, to me, success isn't really like $1 million. Like to me, that's not success. Like people that have $1 million, they could be in debt to their teeth. You know what I mean? And they can't move freely because they have so much stuff going on. Like you can't just pick up and be like, oh, I'm gonna go on a vacation today or tomorrow, book a flight.
I gotta be honest, that's what, like, where I'm at right now, that's what's been kind of disheartening about everything is like growing up, it's always like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, right? And you think that's successful, right? But it's like, yo, if you had $1 million but no property to your name and you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, it's like, that's not success for real. No. Or you can have someone that just has, 3 months expenses, but he owns 10 properties. Like, that's kind of more of a success story in my opinion. You know what I mean? So the way that we think success is growing up versus like what it really is, I feel like it's kind of two different things, man. And then it's like, if you only base it on money and like money in the bank, it's like the time that you have to like just allocate to get that money is like, how are you successful if like you can't even spend it
exactly
like the time with the people that you love and stuff like that.
Exactly. Like even with me, it's just like if my kids are sick from school, they'll call me and I'll be able to just get up out of from my college and go pick them up from school because I have that time freedom. You know what I mean? I'm not held onto like a 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be. It's like I don't have to ask my boss like, oh, can I go pick up my kids from school because they're sick or whatever the case may be. And if I really wanted to, I could hop on a flight tomorrow and just go somewhere, you know?
Mm.
I don't have to ask for time off or nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's success.
Would you rather be loved or respected?
I'd rather be loved. Yeah. Because I feel like respect comes with that. If you love somebody, you're going to be respectful to them, right?
9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's
Well,
family
actually-
members that you have that
Yeah.
you love them, but you're like, yo, get the hell out of my face. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, actually, I might have to take that back. Because there's situations where people do love somebody, but yeah, they're still in domestic violence situations. And I'd rather get respected. Because yeah.
I know you probably have more, but if you just had to give me 2 of your best friends, who would you name?
Mark and Justin.
Mark and Justin, okay. So if I go up to Mark and Justin individually and I say, what's the one thing that JTex has to work on the most or improve the most on, what would each one of them tell me?
Doing too many things at once. I take on a lot of things, and I tend to like overwhelm myself. That's definitely one thing. You said 2 things?
Well, one from each. So like, who would say that, Mark or Justin?
Mark would definitely say that.
And what would Justin say?
Because he sees it, you know what I mean? I vent to him a lot about like sometimes being very overwhelmed. Justin, probably drinking. Yeah, probably drinking. Because I be getting turned up sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration? My mom. She's definitely was always my biggest inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Being a single mom, raising us, she's working like 3 jobs at once, just to make sure that we were good, you know. So definitely my mom.
If money wasn't a thing and you could have your flipping and real estate business anywhere, and say if your family moves with you wherever you go, if you could live in any city in the world, what city would it be in and why?
Tampa. Tampa, Florida.
Shall go DJ. I feel like you guys can't get enough of that place.
Nah, Tampa's a beautiful place, man. And the people over there are amazing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the last time I went to Tampa, I met a couple of dudes that were like into real estate. I met them at a pool party that was over
They
there.
got a whole show. I don't know if you've seen the show,
Yeah.
but they have like a whole like real estate Tampa show that
I never seen it, but I heard about it.
people are getting real money out there.
Yeah.
Like it's no joke.
And it's like they share their, you know what I'm saying, their knowledge and all that. Like even with me, it's like I was planning on moving to Tampa, and then I was like back and forth conversation with people that were there, and they was already setting me up. Like,
Wow.
like, oh, I already got something for you if you're trying to get into the flips out here. You know what I mean? It's like that's the type of people that I love to be around.
Yeah.
People
yeah.
that want to see you grow.
I mean, oftentimes, 9 out of 10 times, it is the people that you don't even really know like that
I know,
are
yeah.
going to be that
Yeah,
genuine.
that's
you know
very
what
true.
I mean? Because there's not going to be any animosity of like, oh, like both of us were both at one spot and now he kind of climbed up the food chain and I'm still here. You know, it's just like you just meet someone and like, you know, having ill will to someone that you don't even know, that kind of don't even make
weird.
sense. You know what I mean?
It's weird.
What do you believe to be true that most people don't?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Like what's something that, you know, whenever you say this belief of yours or this idea of yours, you know, you're already hesitant because you're like, oh, 9 out of 10 people aren't even gonna like agree with this, or they're gonna think I'm crazy about this.
I don't know. That's a good question.
We might have to go back to that one. Top 5 current artists that you listen to.
I've been listening to 42 Doug heavy, Lil Baby, Crucial. You had him on the
Shout
show.
Crucial, yes, sir.
You had him on here. What I say? 42 Crucial, Lil Baby. I mean Drake. ESTG. Yeah.
what's your most regretful purchase, excluding the flip that you lost 80 bands on?
My most regretful purchase. I can't even say it right now. But yeah.
All right. What's your second most regretful purchase that you're allowed to share?
All right. So my second most regretful purchase. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm a very frugal person when it comes to like spending money. So it's like, especially after when I lost that 84K.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before that, I lost a lot of money too with doing the promotion stuff. So maybe that. You could say that was 50K.
So promotional investment.
Yeah.
If you could have lunch with anyone, who would it be and why?
If I could have lunch with anybody, probably Obama, honestly.
And why is that?
I just feel like he came out from nowhere and to just be the first black president. Just be like, he came from Chicago and then deal with all this controversy, and I don't know. I just feel like he'd be a good person to sit down and talk to.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing about him that I feel like nobody talks about is whenever Barack Obama's brought up, everybody talks about how handsome of a guy he is, right? And what I'm thinking is like, yo, there's never been like a sex scandal of no sort, you know what I mean? But I can only imagine at the White House, like, you know, the story writes itself, but I can only imagine like you got one of the most handsome presidents ever, like chilling, you know what I mean?
Probably has it thrown it at him all the time.
Take it for what you will, but I'm like, man, kudos to him for just being straight and narrow, you know?
Yeah, but even when like he's a family man, he loves his wife, puts her on a pedestal,
right?
You know, and then he takes good care of his kids.
Mm-hmm. When it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
I'd like to be remembered as someone that never gave up and loved his kids unconditionally. Like what I do right now, everything's for them. At the end of the day, I don't want them to go without and never have to worry about having to do something illegal or whatever the case may be to try to
make ends meet.
You know what I mean? I wanted them to know that their dad worked hard and got to where he's at because he never gave up. So I want them to never give up too.
Yeah. I mean, your kids, they have crazy personalities. It's wild. They're like real, like little adults already. You know what I mean? Especially your son. I'd be dying. Yeah, he'd be killing me with the karate classes. I'd be rolling. Do you have any questions for me before we wrap it up?
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years with this podcast?
With this podcast? Oof.
Because I know we talked about like consistency is what's really key, and you've been really consistent with it.
So up until this point and probably the next year or so, it's gonna be all people that I have a genuine relationship with. Like me and you go back probably 10 plus years or whatever. So it's all people that I have like a genuine connection with. In 5 years, I'm just hoping that my platform is recognizable to a point where anybody worth talking to, whenever they come to Rhode Island, or even if I just can get them on the FaceTime, will come on my platform and kind of, have a deep conversation. I like having conversations with individuals who, like me and you, for example. The average person sees me and you, they're going to be like, oh, they're going to be talking about nightlife and they're going to be talking about going out and turning up, right? But right now, we just had a 40-minute conversation that mostly had to do with real estate. Yeah. So like that kind of flip, I really appreciate that. So it's going to be the ability for me to tap into other resources that I don't currently have just because of this platform. So boom, I see someone that's really big in the mental health field. And I'm like, man, I really love what you're doing. Come on my podcast. Let's have a conversation. Without this podcast, they might be like, oh, go scram, But if they see that it's a podcast and it's delivering quality content, they'll be like, okay, sure. And now they come on my podcast, and now I have an extra person in my Rolodex that I can talk to for whatever. So it's basically really going to be used as just like one big tree that has a lot of branches, and in 5 years those branches might hit someone in California, might hit someone in Texas, maybe someone is starting up a lounge in Houston, and I don't know. I just wanted to just kind of grow into that space and to have really kind of mature and intellectual conversations.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I think it's really dope what you're doing. I mean, I watched probably most of your podcasts. It's probably like a handful that I haven't watched, but I'll see you post something. I'm like, oh, looks like an interesting interview. So I'll just go on my YouTube and I'll pull it up. But
Yeah.
yeah.
The key thing for me is really like I just know like so many people that are like doing something that should be commended,
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people hitting me up asking, to be on the podcast, and I'm sure I'll get to everyone. You know what I mean? I'm not someone that's like, oh no, like you can't be on it, but it's just like off the top of my head, I already had a solid 25 people who I wanted to talk to on this thing.
Yeah.
And and I just feel like, especially when it comes to real estate, it's just so important for our community to get involved and at least be knowledgeable. If you don't want to get involved, cool, but at least be like knowledgeable about the opportunities it may or may not be able to bring to you. So with that being said, I wish everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. I had a good Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on the next time. Everyone stay smooth.